You have a choice today. Keep carrying the weaker version of yourself or leave it behind for good. The version that makes excuses, that stays scared, that gives up too soon, it has no place in the life you are meant to live. If you don't let go of it, it will keep pulling you down. But if you kill it now, you open the door to real strength, real confidence, real freedom. It's your time. Don't waste it staying small. In a few moments, you will learn how to break free from weakness and step fully into the powerful life you deserve. You are not finished yet. You might believe that who you are today is the final version of yourself, but that is a tragic mistake. Life never demanded that you freeze into your current form. It demanded that you evolve, stretch, and grow. Growth is not a luxury reserved for the talented or the blessed. It is the duty you owe to yourself and the generations that will follow you. How, then, do you begin? You begin by admitting that the weak version of you is not the real you. It is merely a shadow, a hesitant whisper against the roaring potential placed within you. Imagine an acorn refusing to become an oak tree. What a waste. You are the oak, not the acorn. Each day you stay stagnant, you deny yourself the thrill of seeing what you can truly become. Your comfort zone is nothing but a beautiful prison, adorned with familiar patterns and predictable outcomes. It promises safety, but delivers mediocrity. True growth occurs at the edges of discomfort, where uncertainty meets courage. When you push past what you thought were your limits, you discover they were merely suggestions, boundaries drawn by fear rather than capability. Remember when you first learned to walk? You fell countless times, yet never once did you conclude walking wasn't for you. That childlike persistence, the refusal to accept limitation, is still within you, waiting to be reclaimed. Your potential doesn't diminish with age. It expands with experience. Every challenge overcome adds to your arsenal of strengths. Every failure teaches lessons that success never could. The universe hasn't finished writing your story. There are chapters yet unwritten, talents yet undiscovered, and impacts yet unmade. To settle now would be to close the book prematurely. Look around at nature. Nothing in creation remains static. Rivers carve through mountains, seeds burst through concrete, and stars explode to birth new galaxies. You are part of this ever-evolving cosmos, not exempt from its fundamental law of transformation. So reject the notion that you have peaked. Dismiss the voice that whispers, enough. Embrace instead the exhilarating truth that your greatest self lies ahead, not behind. What dream have you abandoned? What skill have you neglected? What truth have you avoided? These are not random questions, but signposts pointing toward your next evolution. So ask yourself, are you willing to live and die as a faded version of yourself? Or will you rise with the fire of transformation and become the masterpiece you were born to be? The choice, my friend, is entirely yours to make. But know this, you are not finished yet, not even close. Excuses are chains. You have built palaces of excuses, brick by brick, to protect the weaker self. But no fortress built on fear can save a soul meant to conquer. Excuses seduce you. They tell you, not today, maybe later. I'm not ready. They dress themselves as wisdom when in truth they are thieves, thieves that rob you of destiny. You must tear down that fortress with the hammer of action. Every time you hear the voice of excuse, act immediately in defiance. Do the thing you fear to do. Step boldly where you feel timid. These excuses whisper comfort but deliver stagnation. They promise protection but ensure mediocrity. The mind is masterful at creating rational-sounding justifications for inaction. I'll start when conditions are perfect, you say, not realizing perfect conditions never arrive. Each excuse adds another link to the chain that binds you. I don't have enough time becomes a permanent condition rather than a temporary circumstance. I don't have the right connections becomes an immovable barrier rather than a challenge to overcome. I'm too old or I'm too young places artificial boundaries on potential that has no age limit. Consider how many dreams lie buried in the graveyard of someday. How many lives of quiet desperation are lived because excuses were embraced rather than exposed. The tragedy isn't in failing, It's in never attempting because you've convinced yourself the attempt isn't worth making. Benjamin Franklin, who faced his weaknesses by creating a personal system of virtues, daily, disciplined. He did not hide behind not today. He built greatness today and tomorrow and the day after. He understood that excellence is built through consistent action, not occasional inspiration. Your freedom lies in destroying excuses before they destroy you. When the voice of resistance rises, recognize it not as truth, but as fear disguised as reason. The moment you feel reluctance is precisely when action becomes most valuable. Every champion, every innovator, every person of consequence has faced the same inner resistance you face now. What separates them is not talent or luck, but their refusal to negotiate with excuses. They act despite doubt, despite fear, despite imperfect circumstances. The most dangerous excuses are those that sound virtuous, waiting until you're more prepared, until you've learned more, until you've saved enough. These reasonable-sounding delays are still delays. Life does not pause while you prepare. It continues without you. Challenge yourself to live one day without a single excuse. Notice how different decisions emerge when "I can't" is removed from your vocabulary. Notice how capability expands when limitations are questioned rather than accepted. The chains of excuse tighten so gradually you barely notice their weight until they've immobilized you completely. Breaking free requires not gradual loosening, but decisive shattering. The bold declaration that from this moment forward, results matter more than reasons. Look within. What excuse have you been nurturing as truth? Are you brave enough to cut it at the root and stand victorious? Whatever justification you've clung to, whatever rationalization has kept you comfortable but small, name it, face it, and demolish it. Your potential awaits on the other side of excuses. Your greatness lies beyond the wall of "I can't." Your destiny unfolds when you exchange explanations for executions. The chains that bind you are of your own making. The key that unlocks them is in your hands. Comfort is a cuffin comfort, lulls you into a silent death. It is the poison that feels like honey, but kills like venom. The weak version of you is addicted to comfort, but you are called for conquest. Each step out of your comfort zone is a blow to the frailty within you. How can you destroy the addiction? Start small. Take the cold shower. Start the awkward conversation. Push 1 mile further than you think you can. Stretch yourself until discomfort becomes your new home, because greatness lives there. The human spirit was never designed for stagnation. Look at history's giants. They did not achieve immortality by nestling into routine. They clawed their way forward, bleeding if necessary, sacrificing comfort on the altar of achievement. Your muscles do not grow stronger without the burn of resistance. Your mind does not expand without the strain of challenge. Why, then, do you expect your character to develop while cushioned in ease? Comfort whispers seductive lies. You've earned a break. You deserve to relax. Why push when you can coast? These sweet deceptions mask a bitter truth. What you're really choosing is slow decay. The law of nature permits no middle ground. You're either growing or dying, advancing or retreating. Your ancestors did not have the luxury of comfort. They fought predators, survived winters, crossed oceans, and built civilizations, all while embracing discomfort as the price of survival. The comfort you cling to dishonors their struggle. It squanders the resilient DNA they fought to pass down to you. Thomas Edison, failing thousands of times, never comfortable. But he lit the world. He embraced discomfort, while others curled up in their beds of excuses. What if he had stopped at failure 100 or 1,000? The world would have waited longer for light. How many gifts are you withholding from the world because you refuse to endure temporary pain? The coffin of comfort has many chambers. The extra hour of sleep that dulls your edge, the easy conversation that avoids the important truth. Each seems harmless alone, yet together they embalm your potential, preserving you in a state of living death. Physically present, but spiritually dormant. Break free. Feel the exhilaration of voluntary hardship. When you choose discomfort deliberately, you reclaim power over your circumstances. The cold shower you dread becomes a victory before your day begins. The difficult conversation you avoid becomes a bridge to deeper connection. The extra mile when your body screams to stop becomes testimony to your unconquerable will. Comfort creates a life of what if and if only. Discomfort forges a life of I did and I became. Which narrative will you author? Which legacy will you leave? The pages are blank, waiting for your choice. Every significant human advancement, art, science, technology, philosophy, was born from discomfort. Someone, somewhere, decided that the status quo was insufficient. They endured ridicule, failed repeatedly, worked while others slept, and persisted when logic suggested surrender. Will you trade eternal greatness for momentary ease? When you lay your head down tonight, will you sleep knowing you killed a weakness today? Or will you cling to the fading comfort of good enough? Your legacy demands an answer. The coffin of comfort awaits us all eventually. Until then, live so vibrantly, strive so mightily, and embrace discomfort so completely that when death finally comes, it recognizes you not as one who has been practicing for the grave, but as one who has lived fully until the very end. Desire without discipline is dead. You wish to achieve, yes, so do millions. Desire alone is not your savior, it is merely the spark. Without discipline, desire burns out quickly, like a match in the wind. The stronger version of you lives in discipline, not desire. Discipline shows up after excitement fades. It drags you from bed when comfort begs you to stay. How to birth discipline. Anchor small daily wins to your deepest dream. Celebrate the consistency, not the intensity. The graveyard of potential is filled with brilliant minds who relied on passion alone. They began with fire in their eyes, hearts pounding with possibility, then vanished when the flame flickered. Desire is the lover that excites you. Discipline is the partner that sustains you. Both are necessary, but only one endures the winter seasons of achievement. Your desires change with the wind. Strong today, forgotten tomorrow. They rise and fall with external triggers, a motivational video, an inspiring conversation, a glimpse of someone else's success. But discipline stands unmoved by these temporary currents. It is the quiet force that continues when emotion has abandoned ship. The world rewards consistency above all else. Average efforts applied consistently demolish brilliant efforts applied sporadically. The writer who produces one page daily will author volumes, while the occasional genius sits paralyzed by perfectionism. The athlete who trains in obscurity will outlast the naturally gifted who practice only when inspired. George Washington, crossing the Delaware, frozen, exhausted, but disciplined. His discipline made him the father of a nation, not a fleeting burst of emotion. History does not remember those who felt strongly, but those who acted relentlessly. Understand this truth. Motivation is unreliable. It is the fair weather friend of achievement. It appears on sunny days and vanishes during storms. Building your future on motivation is constructing a castle on quicksand. Discipline is the bedrock beneath monuments that endure centuries. The myth of overnight success has destroyed more potential than failure ever could. Behind every sudden breakthrough lies thousands of invisible disciplined hours. The musician who exploded onto the scene spent a decade practicing in empty rooms. The entrepreneur who struck gold endured years of setbacks and adjustments. You cannot surf on waves of motivation. You must walk on the foundation of discipline. The waves will come and go. The foundation remains. Let others chase feelings. You pursue consistency. Let others wait for perfect conditions. You create progress in any weather. Discipline begins with small commitments honored religiously. The alarm clock obeyed without negotiation. The promise to yourself kept when no one is watching. The workout completed without an audience. The temptation resisted when indulgence seems justified. Each small victory builds the muscle that carries you toward greatness. The undisciplined mind will bargain with itself, creating elaborate justifications for compromise. It will point to exhaustion, stress, or special circumstances as reasons to abandon today's commitment. The disciplined mind acknowledges these realities but refuses to be governed by them. Your biological wiring seeks ease and pleasure. It is natural to resist discipline. But what separates the extraordinary from the ordinary is precisely this willingness to override biological defaults in service of a greater vision. So ask yourself today, are your actions chained to fleeting moods or anchored to unshakable commitment? Your answer will reveal which version of yourself you are building and which one must be buried. Remember, desire points to the destination, discipline delivers you there. Dreams without deadlines are merely fantasies. Ambition without action is just wishful thinking. Vision without consistent execution is delusion disguised as aspiration. Build your life on the bedrock of discipline and watch as desires transform into destiny. You must fire the old manager of your mind. Your mind has been managed by fear, laziness, doubt. These are poor managers who have bankrupted greater men than you. If a business fails under poor leadership, it replaces the leader. So must you. How? Audit your thoughts, eliminate every one that does not serve your vision. Replace them with the voice of power, belief, and determination. Plant thoughts like seeds. Water them with action. Starve the weeds of doubt. The mind you inhabit today was not constructed by you alone. It was shaped by parents who transferred their fears, teachers who imposed their limitations, peers who projected their insecurities, and a society that profits from your self-doubt. You have been operating with inherited software, running programs you never consciously installed. Every thought that crosses your mental landscape either empowers or diminishes you. There is no neutral thinking. Each mental pattern either pulls you toward greatness or pushes you toward mediocrity. Yet, how carelessly we monitor this constant stream. How passively we allow toxic thoughts squatting rights in our most precious real estate. Your thoughts create chemical reactions in your body. Doubt releases cortisol that weakens you. Confidence triggers dopamine and serotonin that strengthen you. This is not mystical philosophy, it is biological reality. The old manager is literally poisoning your system while promising to protect you. The resignation letter to your old mental management must be decisive and final. No severance package, no consulting role, no occasional visit. These saboteurs must be permanently removed from their positions of influence. Their whispers of "you can't" and "you shouldn't" and "what will others think" have no place in your new administration. Abraham Lincoln battled doubt daily but managed his mind like a fortress of hope. His victory was not external first, it was internal. He faced more failure and rejection than most could endure. Yet he refused to let these experiences define his mental landscape. He evicted the tenants of despair and installed the infrastructure of resilience. Your new mental management requires vigilance. Thoughts will attempt to revert to familiar patterns, the path of least resistance. Just as a neglected garden returns to weeds, an unguarded mind drifts toward limitation. The difference between momentary success and lasting transformation is this vigilance. When you catch yourself in old thought patterns, don't waste energy in self-condemnation. Simply recognize the intruder, escort it firmly to the exit, and replace it immediately with its empowering counterpart. "I can't do this" becomes "I am finding a way." "This is impossible" transforms to "this is challenging but solvable." Tired. "I always fail" shifts to "I learn and improve with each attempt." So look closely. What old managers are still ruling your inner empire? Will you allow fear to bankrupt your dreams, or will you fire the cowards and hire courage as your new CEO? The battle for your destiny is waged first in the silent chambers of your mind, where no one witnesses the conflict but you. The restructuring of your mental corporation may be the hardest work you ever do. It requires confronting comfortable lies and embracing uncomfortable truths. It demands vigilance when you're tired and discipline when you're distracted. But no external achievement will ever compensate for this internal failure. Your mind is the soil. What you plant, you shall harvest. Choose wisely, for your future is standing by, waiting to be born. The world you experience tomorrow is being cultivated in the garden of your thoughts today. The old managers promise safety but delivered imprisonment. The new leadership promises nothing but possibility and delivers nothing less than freedom. You are not your failures. The weak self clings to past failures like trophies of defeat, but failure is not a reflection of your worth. It is simply tuition paid for wisdom. You are not the sum of your mistakes. You are the sum of what you choose to become after them. How do you sever this old identity? Begin by celebrating every lesson learned, not every wound received. The human mind has a dangerous tendency toward fixation, attaching memories to emotions and replaying them as identity. I failed quickly becomes I am a failure. This subtle linguistic shift creates a prison of self-perception more confining than any physical cell. The bars are invisible but equally restrictive. Your mistakes, those moments of judgment clouded, of effort unrewarded, of vision unrealized, are events, not essence. They are data points, not definitions. They are what happened to you, not who you are. This distinction is not mere semantics. It is the gateway to your liberation. Consider how absurd it would be to define a vast landscape by a single patch of ground, or an entire ocean by one wave that crashed upon the shore. Yet how willingly we reduce our complex, limitless nature to our worst moments, our greatest disappointments, our most painful failures. Henry Ford, who bankrupted himself multiple times before building an empire, each fall taught him how to rise stronger, more determined, more unstoppable. Did history remember his bankruptcies, or did it remember the revolution in manufacturing he ultimately created? His failures were necessary ingredients in his success, not contradictions to it. The paradox of human achievement is that failure often serves as its foundation. The master became a master by failing more than the novice has even attempted. The innovation that changes the world emerges from a graveyard of attempts that didn't work. The unshakable confidence that inspires others is forged in the furnace of past inadequacies overcome. You must remember, failure is only fatal to those who surrender their will. Failure without reflection is wasted pain. Failure with reflection becomes education you could not have purchased elsewhere at any price. The question is not whether you will fail. This is inevitable for anyone attempting anything worthwhile, but whether you will extract the full value from each failure. Every time you review your past, ask, am I seeing graves or stepping stones? Are you conducting an autopsy or are you mining for treasure? The same experience viewed through different lenses produces different realities. Choose to see through the lens of growth rather than the lens of shame. Your weak self mourns setbacks. Your strong self mined them for gold. Your weak self asks, why did this happen to me? Your strong self asks, how can this serve me? Your weak self seeks sympathy. Your strong self seeks strategy. Choose which self you will feed with your attention. The path to redemption begins with forgiveness, not seeking it from others, but granting it to yourself. Release the grip of perfectionism that makes failure unacceptable. Embrace the humility that makes failure instructive. Stand tall in the knowledge that your worst mistake is not the period at the end of your story, but merely a comma in a narrative still unfolding. So I ask you, what if every mistake you've made was setting you up for your greatest masterpiece? What if the depth of your falls is precisely what will give height to your eventual rise? What if the darkness you've walked through is exactly what qualifies you to lead others toward the light? You are not your failures. You are what you choose to become because of them. Identity must become a decision, not a discovery. Stop waiting to find yourself. Decide who you will become. Then live accordingly. Identity is not hidden treasure. It is a structure you must build. Too many of us wander through life like explorers without a map, hoping to stumble upon our authentic selves hidden in some remote cave of circumstance. We wait for epiphanies that rarely come, for someone to tell us who we are, or for life to shape us into something meaningful. This passive approach leaves our potential dormant, wasting precious years adrift in uncertainty. Identity is not something you uncover, it is something you forge. The most extraordinary lives are built by those who chose their identity with deliberate intention, then aligned every action to manifest that vision. They understood a profound truth. You become what you consistently do. Begin by writing a declaration of the man or woman you choose to be. What values will you embody? What skills will you master? What impact will you have on others? This is not wishful thinking, but architectural planning. You are drafting blueprints for your future self. Read your declaration daily until it hardens into bone and blood, until your chosen identity becomes inseparable from your being. Helen Keller, born both blind and deaf, yet who decided to see and hear through sheer will. She refused to let her circumstances dictate her identity. Instead, she declared herself a scholar, writer, and advocate. Her limitations became irrelevant in the face of her decision about who she would become. Her identity was not discovered beneath her disabilities, it was built despite them. When you act as if you already are who you aspire to become, your nervous system cannot distinguish between authentic confidence and its deliberate imitation. Eventually, the acting dissolves, leaving only genuine embodiment. The mask becomes the face. This approach demands courage. Declaring, "I am this," when all evidence suggests otherwise, feels like lying. Yet every great transformation begins with this necessary fiction. The marathon runner was once winded after a single mile. The confident speaker once trembled before an audience. The difference was their decision to identify as what they were not yet, and their willingness to live accordingly. Ask yourself, will you drift like a leaf on currents of circumstance, or will you build like a master craftsman with clear intention? The former leaves your life to chance. The latter puts destiny in your hands. Your future self is determined not by what happens to you, but by what happens within you. The decisions you make about who you are. Each morning presents the same choice. Will you reinforce your chosen identity through deliberate action, or will you surrender to the inertia of your current self? The gap between who you are today and who you aspire to be tomorrow can only be bridged by decisions made today. Each small choice either expands or constrains your identity. Choose behaviors that align with your declaration, even when difficult, even when no one is watching. Are you ready to become intentional with your destiny? The moment you stop searching for yourself and start creating yourself is the moment your life transforms from accidental to purposeful. Your identity awaits not discovery, but decision. Pain is a passage, not a prison. The weak version of you fears pain and shrinks at its touch, but pain was never meant to imprison you. It was meant to purify you, to test if you are truly ready for greatness. Most of us instinctively flee from discomfort. We build elaborate lives designed to shield us from suffering, treating pain as the enemy. In doing so, we unwittingly construct our own prisons, safe, predictable spaces where growth becomes impossible. We fail to recognize that comfort is the jailer that keeps us from our potential. The strongest among us understand a counterintuitive truth. Pain is not a punishment, but a pathway. It is the narrow passage through which all transformation must travel. No meaningful growth has ever occurred in the absence of resistance. The butterfly struggles against the chrysalis, and this very struggle strengthens its wings for flight. Remove the struggle and you cripple the creature. How can you make pain your ally? Embrace it deliberately. When your muscles burn during exercise, recognize this as the sensation of becoming stronger. When rejection stings, understand this as the price of putting yourself forward. When grief overwhelms, know this as the measure of how deeply you have loved. Pain is not happening to you, it is happening for you. When hardship strikes, smile and whisper to yourself, "This is making me." This simple reframing transforms suffering from something you endure to something you utilize. Pain becomes not your master, but your mentor, teaching lessons unavailable through any other medium. Apostle Paul, who sang hymns in prison, building inner strength as his external world crumbled, chained in a Roman cell, facing execution, he discovered a profound freedom that transcended his circumstances. His physical imprisonment became the backdrop for spiritual liberation. In his darkest hour, he demonstrated that external constraints cannot imprison an unshackled mind. The quality of your life is determined not by what happens to you, but by how you respond to what happens. Pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. Between stimulus and response lies the power of interpretation, your ability to assign meaning to your experiences. Will you curse your trials or crown them? Will you treat difficulties as punishments or as initiations into greater wisdom? Every scar can be a medal if you choose to see it rightly. The Japanese art of kintsugi repairs broken pottery with gold, highlighting rather than hiding the breaks. The finished piece becomes more valuable, more beautiful because of its damages. Your wounds can likewise become your most striking features when properly integrated into your story. Will you view your wounds as reasons to quit or badges earned on the battlefield of destiny? The former leads to bitterness, the latter leads to wisdom. Your hardships are not evidence that you are unworthy of success. They are evidence that you are being prepared for it. Pain asks a question. Will you become bitter or better? Will you allow suffering to diminish you or develop you? The answer determines whether pain becomes your prison or your passage. Remember, fire destroys or refines. The same flame that consumes wood purifies gold. The difference is not in the flame, but in the material. Decide today to be the kind of person who is refined, not consumed, by life's inevitable fires. Goals without deadlines are dreams with no pulse. A weak man says someday. A strong man says by this day. Dreams without deadlines wither into regrets. To breathe life into your aspirations, you must fix a date and marry it with obsession. The cemetery of human potential is filled with brilliance that never materialized, with novels never written, businesses never launched, and transformations never completed. What killed these possibilities? Not lack of talent or opportunity, but the slow poison of indefinite timing. Someday is where ambitions go to die. The difference between the dreamers and the achievers is not the quality of their intentions, but the specificity of their commitments. Vague aspirations produce vague results. When you declare, "I will lose weight," without a target date, you've created nothing but a wish. But when you declare, "I will lose 15 pounds by June 1st, you've created a contract with yourself, one that demands immediate action. Choose one goal, not 3, not 5, not 10. The force of your focus diminishes with every additional target. Select the objective that, once accomplished, will create the greatest positive cascade in your life. Then set a bold but realistic deadline, bold enough to demand your greatest effort, realistic enough to remain within the realm of possibility. This balance prevents both complacency and disillusionment. Then move heaven and earth to meet it. A deadline without corresponding intensity is merely a suggestion. Your level of obsession must match the magnitude of your goal. Reorganize your schedule, eliminate distractions, and redirect resources. Make your deadline so sacred that breaking it would feel like betraying your deepest self. Napoleon Bonaparte, who set swift campaigns, not endless ones. His military genius wasn't just strategic brilliance, but temporal discipline. While his opponents planned extended conflicts, Napoleon understood the psychological power of compression, how urgency focuses the mind and intensifies action. He understood that the longer you wait, the weaker the vision grows. Time erodes enthusiasm. Motivation, like a fire, requires constant feeding or it extinguishes. Your goals deserve urgency because your life is not infinite. Each passing day represents opportunity that can never be reclaimed. The hard truth is that time respects neither your potential nor your intentions. It passes with absolute indifference to your unfulfilled ambitions. The deadline serves another crucial function. It transforms abstract aspirations into concrete projects. Without a time frame, the mind cannot properly allocate resources or measure progress. The amorphous goal floats eternally in the realm of what could be rather than descending into the workshop of what is becoming. When you set a deadline, you also create the possibility of failure, and this is its hidden power. The risk of missing your target date creates productive tension. The comfort of indefinite timing breeds complacency. The pressure of an approaching deadline breeds creativity and resourcefulness. So tell me, what is the one dream you've kept somedaying? When will you bring it to life with blood, sweat, and a date circled in red? The power to transform intention into reality awaits in your answer. Choose your deadline, not as a loose suggestion, but as an unbreakable covenant with your future self. Write it down, announce it to someone who will hold you accountable. Then attack each day as if the deadline were a matter of life and death, because in the realm of your highest potential, it is exactly that. Your legacy will be determined not by what you plan to do someday, but by what you completed by the days you chose. Association is acceleration. The weak version of you thrives in poor company, complainers, cynics, cowards, but you are called to ascend higher. Association determines acceleration. Who you walk with decides how far you run. We often underestimate how profoundly our environments shape us. Like water taking the shape of its container, you gradually conform to the thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors of those with whom you spend the most time. This transformation occurs so subtly that you barely notice it happening, until one day you look in the mirror and wonder how you became who you are. The fundamental truth remains: you will never outperform your inner circle. The caliber of minds you regularly engage with establishes both your ceiling and your floor. Mediocre associations create mediocre outcomes with mathematical precision. Excellence, likewise, begets excellence. Seek mentors, join communities that ignite your ambition, distance yourself from negativity. This is not mere networking, it is strategic identity formation. Every relationship is an investment that yields returns, positive or negative. When you surround yourself with individuals who demand growth, who expect excellence, who refuse to settle, their standards silently become your own. Andrew Carnegie, who surrounded himself with titans of industry before he became one himself, he understood that to achieve extraordinary success, he needed to inhabit the world of the extraordinary. By placing himself in proximity to greatness, he absorbed the mindsets, strategies, and perspectives that later enabled his own empire. He recognized what many miss. Success leaves clues, and those clues are often found in the company one keeps. Your associations are mirrors reflecting your future. The conversations you regularly participate in forecast your trajectory with startling accuracy. Listen carefully to the recurring themes in your social circles. Are they dominated by excuses or solutions, by complaints or creations, by fears or ambitions? These conversations are not just passing exchanges. They are programming your subconscious mind. The physics of human development follows a simple law. You cannot help but be influenced by your surroundings. Just as a hot iron placed next to cold iron transfers heat until both reach equilibrium, your energy, drive, and vision will either elevate or descend to match your environment. This is not hypothesis. It is thermodynamics applied to human potential. Every handshake, every conversation, every influence either polishes or tarnishes your destiny. The casual lunch that inspires a breakthrough. The toxic colleague who normalizes mediocrity. The mentor who sees capability in you that you cannot yet recognize. None of these encounters leave you unchanged. This principle demands difficult decisions. Growth often requires separation, creating distance from those who, despite your history or affection for them, anchor you to lesser versions of yourself. This is not cold abandonment, but clear-eyed stewardship of your one irreplaceable life. So ask yourself, who is sharpening your sword and who is dulling your edge? Who challenges your limiting beliefs? Who celebrates your courage rather than feeding your fear? Who pursues excellence with such vigor that their very presence demands more from you?